That horn was rather girthsome.
Today we have some updates on South by Southwest horror movie previews, some brand new horror flicks dropping this week, and Scream 7 might have a new cast member. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, I'm KillJoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Kicking off this update video, we have to talk about some brand new horror movies that released this past weekend at South by Southwest, an awesome film festival. So now let's talk about some brand new photos, reviews, and updates for 2025's hottest horror releases. Oh, it's getting hot alright, baby. First up, we have some props here on display for the new Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega horror comedy, Death of a Unicorn. The horror comedy, coming in at 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, is described as when a man and his daughter accidentally hit and kill a unicorn with their car, his boss tries to exploit the creature's miraculous curative properties with horrific results. Andrew Salazar of Discussing Film praised Will Poulter and Anthony Carrigan especially for having some of the funniest moments in the flick. You can tell just from the trailer for this movie alone that it's a horror comedy heavy on the comedy. It does tease some pretty cool practical looking creatures, however, so maybe it ups the ante on the horror side of this horror comedy sandwich we're trying to make here. When it comes to horror comedies, I always feel like the worst ones leave out the horror side of that and just end up making a comedy that also has some sort of horror property in it. My favorite horror comedy of all time? Shaun of the Dead, baby. That is a super dark movie with some over-the-top hilarious moments. It's perfect. Death of a Unicorn, however, I don't know if it's going to strike that same balance. It looks like it's going to be a really funny flick, but I think it's going to lose some points on having a lack of horror there. Unicorns can be evil, though. You guys remember Cabin in the Woods, right? I'm going into this one with some pretty low expectations, as horror comedies are rarely hits for me, but maybe you'll dig it. I think fans of the most recent Beetlejuice sequel will really like this one as well. Check it out in theaters at the end of this month on March 28th. Next up is a film called Hollow Road that releases on the most popular date to release a horror movie this year, May 16th. We now have 3 big movies releasing on that date. That is Final Destination Bloodlines, Hurry Up Tomorrow, and now this movie. I'm gonna try to cover all 3 of those on the same day, but we'll see. Mary Beth McAndrews from Dread Central describes the flick as the most terrifying film of 2025 so far, by utilizing spine-tingling sound design, incredible central performances, and a creative use of a single cramped location. Sounds like my kind of horror flick. Some of the best horror movies out there revolve around a single setting, especially ones that are cramped, like The Shining and The Thing. This new movie from Bobak and Vari is getting a lot of early praise, and it's described as a daughter rings her parents for help after causing a fatal automobile accident. Based on Mary Beth's review, it sounds like this film is going to start after a big fight happens between Alice and her parents. Her mother, Madison, wakes up in the middle of the night as the fire alarm is going off. Not because there's a fire, just because, you know, there's not any batteries of good use in there. She's got to go change them bad boys, and then suddenly she gets a call from her daughter. What's this? What? As Madison answers the phone for Alice, she learns that her daughter has just struck and maybe even killed someone trying to give her some CPR lessons over the phone. Jesus. I guess a lot of this film is spent in the car with these 2 parents arguing over the situation of what the best thing to do is here. It sounds like an absolute nightmare for anybody who has kids, and I'm all about that. It's supposedly a fast-paced 80-minute thriller that's more about terrifying sound design rather than Terrifier levels of gore. With the quick runtime and attention-fueled plot like this, it sounds like it's going to hold my attention. I mean, if I'm just sitting in a car with 2 characters for like that long, it might get boring, but it sounds like this is going to be interesting. I'm intrigued. There's also a new zombie movie coming out called We Bury the Dead, starring Daisy Ridley. The film is being described as Ava Newman, Ridley, a desperate woman searches for her husband in the aftermath of a catastrophic military experiment. Hoping to find him alive, Ava joins a body retrieval unit, but her search takes a chilling turn when the corpses she's burying start showing signs of life. Andrew Salazar from Discussing Film raved over this one, saying We Bury the Dead is destined to be a new favorite. More than your average zombie flick, it's a meditative tale on loss and regret. Daisy Ridley delivers a rich performance that's equally tragic and badass. Just like the slasher genre, it's really hard to impress in the zombie field these days. There are already thousands and thousands of zombie movies out there, so it's kind of hard to come up with a brand new concept. So anytime some sort of zombie movie gets a lot of praise like this, it is definitely something that gets my ears all perked up. I love this subgenre a lot, but it is few and far between that something really impresses here. Hopefully this can be that. And finally, the movie I'm easily the most excited for from these 4 is Together, starring an unrecognizable Alison Brie and Dave Franco. I love Dave, but man, he's got a very recognizable baby face. Great actor though. Premiering earlier this year at Sundance, Together is once again getting praise from critics who attended South by Southwest this past weekend. The body horror flick is described as, after moving to the countryside, a supernatural encounter starts to transform a couple's love, their lives, and their flesh. From the little things I know about this flick, it seems like it's all about the struggles of codependency and literally about these two actors joining flesh into one being. Considering the high praise it continues to get this year, Together could be 2025's The Substance. Joe Aranda from Discussing Film says Together is a must-see movie for horror movie lovers. It has enough nightmare fuel that gives some of the best horror movies a run for their money. It's also for people who just want to see Dave Franco and Alison Brie riff off each other in some uniquely hilarious moments. For those who don't know, Alison Brie and Dave Franco are married in real life, so that will likely add some sort of authenticity to their performances here. This reminds me a lot of Emily Blunt and John Krasinski in A Quiet Place. The chemistry there is so important in that flick and maybe even more important here. Together is easily one of my most anticipated flicks of 2025, and I can't wait to see it on August 1st. I guess we don't have to wait too long for this one, but man, I wish it was coming out this weekend. Speaking of this weekend though, we do have two new horror flicks on the horizon here that I'm pretty excited for. First up is Opus, starring Ayo Edebiri from everyone's new favorite cooking show, and Amber Midthunder, the latest Predator Slayer. It's the latest A24 horror flick, which means there's already people in existence who have not seen this flick and hate it. Even as an A24 lover, I have to admit maybe 30% of the time I think they miss, but that's a way better batting average than what Blumhouse is cooking up. When this company strikes oil, it usually digs up a gold mine. In my opinion, the better A24 horror movies are easily some of the best ones I've covered on this page. I Saw the TV Glow and Heretic are a testament to that just from last year. Anyways, Opus here is being described as a young writer travels to the remote compound of a legendary pop star who mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago. Surrounded by a cult of sycophants and intoxicated journalists, she soon finds herself in the middle of his twisted plan. I'm excited for this one because I absolutely love Ayo Edebiri. I share Amber Midthunder's sentiment in this clip here.
I would live with Aya. Yeah? Yeah. I follow her around anyway. I stalk her.
I have to be honest though, I definitely was not blown away by this trailer. This one looks a lot like Blink Twice from last year. Admittedly though, I'm rarely impressed by A24 trailers, even for the movies I ended up loving. I thought Midsommar was gonna suck after that first trailer, and then I almost threw up in the theater because I was so overwhelmed. I'm hoping that this is another winner for a terrifying, sort of still indie company. My most anticipated new release from this week, which oddly has a similar plot description as that last flick, is Borderline, starring Samara Weaving and Ray Nicholson. Do I even need to read you the plot description with that cast, baby? It's a new Samara Weaving horror flick. The performances are gonna be good. Borderline, however, is about a helplessly romantic sociopath, Nicholson, who escapes from a mental institution and invades the home of a 90s pop superstar, Weaving. He just wants to be loved, she just wants to survive. I am getting horror comedy vibes from this one, but definitely with a more balanced tone, unlike Death of a Unicorn. Like I was saying in the previous update, horror comedies are often a slippery slope into a half-baked horror premise with a few goofy moments. I'm just not that crazy about those kind of movies. I'd rather just put on a comedy or put on a horror flick instead of like a watered down version of both of those things. From the trailer alone though, it got a few laughs out of me and I can already see a focused horror tone. If the movie captures the same tone as the trailer, which I think it will, this could be a surprise hit. We'll just have to see this weekend though. Ya boy will be reviewing both of these entries. Check out those videos when they drop this weekend. On top of 3 confirmed cast members for Scream 7 who are seemingly reprising dead characters, we might just have another actress joining the cast of Scream 7 from a previous film. Rumor has it Emma Roberts, who played Jill in Scream 4, may return for Scream 7, as Project X Entertainment has just followed the actress on Instagram. Now, if this is true, that Jill is returning for Scream 7 somehow, does this contradict the most popular theory as of right now, that we're flashing back to 1995 to see Maureen Prescott's murder? I don't think so. So obviously Jill couldn't have been involved in Maureen Prescott's murder. She would have barely been a baby during that time period. This isn't It's Alive. Emma Roberts could just be lending her voice to this project to torture Sydney from the beyond. Let me explain. Daniel Richtman, one of the many third-party sources we've talked about on this page before, recently announced that Scream 7 would have commentary on AI and deepfake technology, a current threat to the entertainment industry. The best theory I've heard so far is that whoever this new Ghostface is utilizing AI to psychologically torment Sydney by using the voices of previous Ghostfaces. Or should I say, shitty replicated voices of dead people. There's a lot to be said about using the voices of dead actors and actresses because the entertainment industry is kinda doing that right now, and it's controversial. It also sounds like an improved version of the voice changer from Scream 3, where it's less of a gimmick and maybe a tool for commentary. That sounds like a very necessary improvement. I'm all about that. So maybe Emma will return to this project, just a day in the studio doing some lines, whatever. But then, why hasn't she been announced yet? Well, I think I might know why. This could potentially be more than a rumor. Like I said earlier, Stu, Roman, and Dewey have all officially been announced to return, but why just those three? I personally think we're actually going to see Matthew, Scott, and David play these characters on screen again for a flashback sequence, while other Ghostface actors from the past will only return to lend their voices to this new movie. That would make sense as to why they're announcing some dead legacy characters to be returning for Scream 7 and not everybody. Because just looking at those three dead characters, Stu, Roman, and Dewey, you could do Maureen Prescott's murder sequence where Dewey shows up as a cop. He's Deputy Dewey again from the first movie, just a year before that. Roman was the master manipulator, as we learned in Scream 3, controlling Stu and Billy. But point being, if Lillard, Foley, and Arquette are not on screen in this movie and all they do is lend their voices to this project, so many fans are gonna be furious about that. That is textbook false advertising. Sure, maybe these three actors can lend their voices to some experimental calls with Sidney Prescott, but I just feel like it's super cheap to announce it in the way that they did and not have them actually appear in the flick. They didn't do that when Drew Barrymore, Jamie Kennedy, Matthew Lillard, and a bunch of other Scream alum were utilized for bit parts in Scream 5. Why would they do that this way now? They're either spoiling a big surprise or trying to put butts in seats, man. I guess I wouldn't put a dirty trick like that past Spyglass Media, however, considering their reputation in just the last couple of years. But in the small chance that the studio is concerned with more than just money with Scream 7, maybe we're getting both a flashback scene and our new Ghostface is using AI to psychologically torment Sydney with the voices of previous killers. That could be cool if executed correctly. Hey everybody, before we wrap up today's video, please make sure to subscribe to this page. I would love to hit 40,000 subs before year's end, so please smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, we're nearly at 1,000 subscribers on my gaming channel GullGotha, so please check that one out. We're less than 400 away over there, and it would be so cool to hit that goal here soon. Thank you to everyone who supports both of my pages. Which update from today's video was your favorite? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.